They tried to drown her in training, laughing until Lieutenant Ward showed what real SEALs are made of. Morning glare over the naval facility, humidity thick as Tessa Ward walks in calm, precise, underestimated. Trainee rider mocks her breathing, his smirk hides fear he doesn't understand yet. The moment turns, dark rider shoves her into the water. Silence replaces laughter. In the hospital, she breathes through pain control, isn't silence, it's command. She signs the waiver to return not for revenge, but to prove timing still belongs to her. Next day, she faces them, all the water still, the air waiting, the stopwatch ready. 6 minutes, 32 seconds, no panic, just mastery. The room forgets to breathe. Ryder confronts her, she answers with discipline, not anger. Control earned, not spoken. Calm returns. No laughter, no only respect. She proved silence isn't surrender, it's power.
They tried to drown her in training, laughed while they held her under, thought she'd choke, cough, break. But Lieutenant Tessa Ward didn't panic, not when the water closed over her head, not when her lungs screamed for air. Instead, she stayed calm, slowed her pulse, watched the bubbles rise, and waited. Because Navy SEALs don't just hold their breath to survive, they hold it to outlast. And when she finally surfaced, they weren't laughing anymore. They were gasping. Now before we show you how long she stayed under. In the exact second the stopwatch made them all go silent, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button with the bell icon turned on. And stay right here, because this story isn't about drowning. It's about how long a SEAL can stay calm underwater. And what happens when she decides to come back up. The sun hit the dive assessment facility like it had a score to settle. Late morning glare bounced off steel railings, wet tile, the thick glass dome covering the indoor pool. Humidity hung heavy, the kind that seeped into your chest before your boots touched the mat. Lieutenant Tessa Ward moved like none of it bothered her. Mid-30s, uniform sleeves rolled exact to regulation, black compression undershirt clinging tighter around her ribs than it used to. Hair pinned back clean. In her hand, a clipboard. On her chest, a small white armband stitched with navy blue letters. MedWatch, respiratory limitation. That was the first thing everyone saw. The second was the sound. Faint, barely audible unless you were listening. A wheeze, dry, rhythmic, like a slow leak in a pressurized valve. It didn't match her posture, her stride, or the calm in her eyes. But it followed her. And the men already in the pool bay noticed. A few glances flicked her way. Not hostile, not yet, but lined with something worse. Curiosity wrapped in expectation. Like they were waiting for her file to confirm what the whisper already suggested, that she shouldn't be here, not anymore. Near the far end of the deck, Chief Mason Dreyer stood with a waterproof folder tucked under one arm and a whistle around his neck. Gray temples, square jaw locked into default mode. Unimpressed. He didn't greet her, just nodded once. Tessa, Chief, he thumbed through a page. You'll supervise timed descents, 5-minute sets. Monitor for control, not speed. She took the assignment without pause, acknowledged. His eyes flicked to the armband. You sure you're good to stay on deck? I'm good to hold my breath if that's what you're asking. That got a twitch at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. He moved on. She crossed to the control stand beside the oxygen tank rig. As she knelt to test the pressure gauge, one of the trainees, lean, broad-shouldered corporal, let his laugh carry just a little too far. Guess they're letting anyone supervise these days, he said, not even whispering. Hope she brought a spare pair of lungs. His buddy snorted. Another smirked. Tessa didn't respond. Didn't look up. Just noted the names on the morning roster. She had eyes on Corporal Brent Ryder now, and if she'd heard the comment, she logged it the way divers log oxygen draw under stress. quietly, efficiently, with no intention of surfacing until the numbers spoke for themselves. The pool smelled like chlorine, rubber, and pride. Tessa moved along the deck with slow precision, checking buoyancy markers, confirming lap timers, logging descent intervals. She didn't speak unless the task required it. That silence, crisp, methodical, rubbed some of the younger candidates the wrong way, especially Ryder. He stood near the edge, stretching with performative confidence, chest out, lats flexed a little longer than necessary. He was the kind of recruit who'd once been a college swim team captain and never fully recovered from losing a personal audience. The mirrored water was just another spotlight. "Hey, Chief," Ryder called across the pool. "What's the protocol if our dive supervisor's lungs give out before the stopwatch does?" Dreyer didn't answer, just tapped the edge of his clipboard without looking up. Tessa kept adjusting the lap rope tension. Ryder wasn't done. "I mean, do we switch to CPR or just let her time us from the infirmary?" That earned a couple of chuckles. Not loud, not cruel, just cowardly enough to blend into the water's echo. Tessa's head didn't turn. She finished the clip, stood, walked over to the data console, and started entering the day's settings. Behind her, Ryder mimicked a wheeze. It wasn't accurate, too dramatic, like a cartoon balloon, but it made two others laugh out loud. One elbowed him. "Ease up, man," Ryder smirked. "Hey, if I had a limp, I'd expect jokes too. Just leveling the playing field." Chief Dreyer's eyes flicked up, narrowed slightly. Not quite enough to call him out, but enough to log the tone. Rank carried weight. Grudges built in silence were heavier. Tessa activated the intercom with a calm press. "All candidates. Formation swim, 5-second intervals. Controlled descents only. Surface breathing at every third lap. You break rhythm, you break protocol. That's simple." Ryder stepped forward, cocky grin welded to his face. "Permission to lead the line, ma'am?" Tessa met his eyes for the first time. "You can start wherever you like. Just be prepared to finish in time." He blinked, caught off guard by the cool precision in her voice. The whistle blew. The first swimmer dove. Ryder launched second. On his third lap, he broke pace early, shot up from the water, and let out an exaggerated gasp. "Guess some of us don't need inhalers." Dreyer said nothing. Tessa spoke without turning. "It's not air that keeps you alive, Corporal. It's control." The silence that followed landed harder than any shout. Even the lap counters froze for a beat. One of the techs at the vital station raised an eyebrow, then looked away, pretending to focus on heart rate data. Ryder, suddenly aware the laughter had stopped, tried to smile again, but found no traction. The pool kept moving. So did she. No retaliation, no argument, just a line drawn so calmly that everyone knew it wasn't bravado. It was measurement, and Ryder had just been clocked. By late afternoon, the dive annex had grown quiet except for water-slapping tile. The air smelled of disinfectant and wet neoprene. Most of the morning recruits had cleared out, leaving only the endurance group, a smaller circle of Marines, and divers tasked with weighted lap training under limited supervision. Chief Dreyer stood at the far end, reviewing data sheets with a logistics officer. Tessa handled the deck alone, stopwatch in hand, oxygen tank pressures noted down to decimal precision. Her orders were simple: observe, record, correct. Nothing physical. The medical board's stipulation was clear: no submersion without clearance. "All right," she called out evenly, voice carrying across the water. "Each set, 1 minute submersion, 5-second surface, repeat. Weighted belts stay clasped until I call extraction." The men nodded, water rippling as they dipped below. Everything moved in practice rhythm. Inhale, dive, rise, reset. All except Ryder. He lagged a half-stroke behind, deliberately late surfacing, flashing his trademark grin as if to say, still breathing fine. His two closest friends, Landon and Sykes, followed his lead, roughhousing through the intervals. They whispered between laps, laughter cutting through the rhythmic splashes. Tessa noted it, logged it, didn't stop them. Then Dreyer's radio buzzed. He stepped toward the exit gate to take the call. A supply update. The second the door clicked shut, Ryder leaned against the ladder, smirk widening. "You ever wonder what happens when the supervisor flunks her own drill?" Landon snorted. "Careful, man." Nah, Ryder said. I just want to see if she really trusts that medical tag. Before anyone could read the shift in his tone, he pushed off the ladder, boots skimming wet tile, and closed the distance. Tessa turned at the sound of motion. Ryder's grin was still there when his hands met her shoulders. Let's see that control up close, Commander. He shoved. The water swallowed her whole. Her clipboard clattered against the deck, stopwatch skidding under a bench. For a moment, all sound vanished beneath the heavy blue silence of the pool. She didn't thrash. Years of training kicked in, lungs compressing, mind counting. But scar tissue wasn't a rulebook opponent. The pressure hit hard, a sharp burn deep behind her sternum. Above her, three silhouettes blurred through the surface light, laughing, pretending to guide her up while keeping her down just long enough to make it look like horseplay. Her body screamed for air. She stayed still, tried to surface on the exhale. Too slow. Her vision narrowed, black edging in. Then a hand slipped. A splash. The resistance broke. She breached, gasping, one knee on the ladder rung, water and blood spraying in the same breath. The sound of her coughing ricocheted off the walls. Easy, easy, Landon said, voice cracked with sudden guilt. Ryder stepped back, palms up. She slipped. I was just... Tessa's body folded forward. A thin stream of red mixed with chlorinated water down her wrist. Commander Ward! One of the medics shouted, bolting from the observation bay. Dreyer re-entered just as the emergency horn blared. The med team had her on deck within seconds. Towel, oxygen mask, vitals cuff. Pulse 114, dropping, the medic called. Tessa's eyes fluttered open. She exhaled through the mask, voice hoarse. Hold, the data. Then she went limp. Ryder froze, still at the edge, watching as they wheeled her toward the corridor. Pale, dripping, mask fogging from shallow breaths. No one said assault. Not yet. But Dreyer's stare found him through the steam rising off the water, a look that didn't need words, because even before the report was written, everyone on that deck knew exactly what they'd seen. The hum of machines replaced the splash of water. Naval Medical Wing 3 was never silent. Monitors blinked, pumps clicked, vents cycled purified air in soft gusts through the sealed observation bay. Tessa Ward lay propped on a raised diagnostic bed, wires trailing from her ribs to the lung saturation monitor. A saline IV hung above her. Her chart, open on a steel clipboard, read, EIPF vertical bar, post-exertional hypoxia vertical bar, 84% O2 at rest. Across the room, Dr. Elias Corin, late 50s, ex-Navy pulmonologist with half-moon glasses and a drawl that could sandpaper arrogance, adjusted a spirometer mouthpiece without looking at her. You took water, deeper than just the throat. Tessa adjusted her position upright. Not enough to drown, Corin snorted. Only reason you're not intubated is because your body still remembers how to slow itself down before panic hits. Reflex doesn't mean immunity. She didn't reply. You drop below 80% saturation again. It's medical suspension, he said flatly. You know that, right? I know. He walked over with the spirometer. Blow into this. Full volume. She did. The hiss of breath lasted 3 seconds, then faltered. The machine beeped. Corin checked the readout. You're borderline. Another minute underwater, you would have aspirated blood. Noted. He folded his arms. Tessa, what happened wasn't an accident. You know that. You could press charges. You could also pull your eval and sit this cycle out. Nobody would question it. She reached to unclip the pulse oximeter from her finger. That would teach the wrong lesson. Which is? That control doesn't matter if someone else takes it from you. He sighed. And what are you planning? Retaliation? She looked at him then, not defiant, not cold, just clear. A demonstration. Corin crossed the room, grabbed a form from the cabinet, and handed it to her. Sign this waiver if you're staying. It acknowledges pulmonary risk and waives liability. She took the pen without hesitation, signed once. Print an extra copy for command. He glanced at her signature. You sure you want to test your lungs again this week? She slid off the bed, steadied herself on the floor. I'm not testing them. I'm showing them what they already survived. Corin's mouth twitched. And if he tries it again, I'll stay vertical. You sure? She clipped her watch back to her wrist. He'll be the one who doesn't. She walked the corridor back alone, boots echoing in the empty medical wing. For just a moment, she wasn't in San Diego anymore. She was back in Kandahar, pinned under 200 pounds of rubble, lung collapsed, ribs shattered. The corpsman had screamed at her to stay still, to stop talking, to let them handle it. But the Taliban were 50 meters out, and her team didn't know the route was compromised. So she'd keyed the radio with a broken hand and given grid coordinates through a punctured lung. Voice barely a whisper, but clear enough. 38% lung capacity. No morphine, just control. Her CO's voice had crackled back through the static. Control isn't silence, Lawson, it's command. She'd stayed conscious through the whole medevac, directed her own extraction. The medic said most people black out from the pain. She'd looked at them like they'd missed the point entirely. Blacking out was a choice, and she'd chosen differently. Later that evening, Chief Dreyer met her just outside the annex briefing room. The hallway buzzed with low chatter. Command had already heard. Ryder's version had reached the officer's circle. She slipped. It was a misunderstanding. Dreyer handed her a sealed packet. Next day's updated eval roster. Lung capacity trial. They moved it forward. Full candidate pool. She flipped it open, eyes scanning the names. Ryder's was listed. So was hers. He lowered his voice. Don't make this about revenge. She closed the folder. It's not. Then what is it? She looked him dead in the eye. It's about timing. The dive annex was never known for gossip, but by the next morning, the corridors hummed with it. She blacked out. Man. No way. I heard she coded. Nah, Ryder pulled her out. Saved her, apparently. None of it was true, but in the absence of footage, silence grew teeth. Tessa Ward walked through the back corridor toward the training bay. Uniform crisp, compression vest zipped tight under the outer layer. She moved without limp or cough. No bandages, no signs of collapse, just a faint discoloration on her wrist where the IV line had sat. Every conversation quieted the moment she passed. Recruits shifted their posture. Some straightened, others didn't meet her eyes. Ryder, standing near the protein lockers, didn't look away. He grinned, loud enough for 3 others to hear. Heard I'm getting a medal next. Life-saving rescue during breath control drills. One of them laughed. The others didn't. Across the compound, command had moved. A formal notice was posted at 0600. Command Directive 9B, Pulmonary Discipline Evaluation. All candidates mandatory. Date 0700 tomorrow. Location, dive evaluation, pool 3. Monitored, yes. Filmed, yes. Objective, static underwater breath hold under biometric scrutiny. It didn't say why, didn't name her, but everyone knew. Inside the prep locker, Chief Dreyer handed out laminated briefing cards. He stopped when he reached her. Your name's on the list. You sure you're cleared? I signed the waiver. Command approved it this morning. That fast enough for you? She checked the order of participants. Ryder was 3rd, she was 7th. It's fine, she said. Dreyer hesitated. If he tries anything, you say it. Before it happens. He won't. You don't know that. I do, she replied quietly. He thinks he already won. Later, in the hallway outside the pool, Ryder leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. He didn't speak until she walked by. Try not to drown twice in 1 week, Commander. She didn't slow. Try not to blink when I don't. He tilted his head. They bring in a medic? She stopped just long enough to look over her shoulder. They won't need one for me. She kept walking, measured, silent, breath already slowing to pace, because this time it wouldn't be about showing them she could survive. It would be about showing them exactly how long they'd underestimated her control. That night, long after the base went quiet, Tessa returned to Pool 3 alone. The blue LEDs cast long shadows across empty benches. She checked the camera angles twice, synced the biometric monitors, tested the emergency cutoff. Then she sat at the edge, boots off, and lowered her feet into the water. Cold, clean, unforgiving. She closed her eyes and ran through the drill in her mind. Not the breath hold itself, but the moment after, the moment when Ryder would have to look at the timer and realize he'd been wrong, not about her lungs, about her will. She pulled her feet from the water, dried them methodically, and walked out without looking back. At 0650 hours, the dive evaluation pool was silent. No chatter, no stretching jokes, no clipped wisecracks about medical tags. Just the low hum of biometric sensors syncing with waterproof trackers and the distant churn of a dehumidifier kicking on. Blue LEDs lit the underside of the pool. The overhead fluorescents were dialed low, casting soft reflections across the still surface. Stainless steel benches lined the perimeter, each one labeled with laminated tags: name, rank, resting BPM, last recorded breath hold. Lieutenant Tessa Ward sat at position 7, arms crossed over her compression vest, eyes half-lidded. Her heart rate monitor blinked a steady 43 BPM, same as yesterday. Lower than average, lower than anyone else in the room. She hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. She didn't need to. Dreyer stood near the far wall beside the medical team and a silent recording unit, camera already rolling. Petty Officer Lewin, dive medic, briefed the group, one by one. Static submersion, no weights. Minimum threshold, 2 minutes. Optional cap, 6. Tech will trigger auto flag at 6:30 if you're still under. You surface when you want or when your body forces it. You pass if you surface with control. You fail if you panic. Understood? Nods. Ryder went third. He stepped up with theatrical calm, pulling his goggles down with a snap, then glanced toward Tessa just long enough to let the smirk show. He dove without flourish, lean, practiced, and disappeared beneath the surface. Stopwatch ticked. 1 minute, even breathing, slight movement. 2 minutes, stillness. His knees floated slightly. At 2:18, he broke surface, slapped the tile, and exhaled sharply. Applause scattered from 2 corners. Not bad, someone murmured. Could have gone longer, Ryder said between breaths. Didn't want to show off. When Tessa stood, no one said a word. She adjusted nothing. No dramatic stretches, no taunts. Just walked to the ladder, dipped in slow. Her body slipped under the surface with 0 splash. The room watched the vitals monitor. Resting pulse, 43. Oxygen saturation, 94%. Stopwatch began. 1 minute, no movement, no flutter. Arms slack, legs neutrally suspended. 2:30. First subtle rise in chest cavity. Micro adjustment. Reflexive spasm held back. 3:45. Lewin glanced at Dreyer. Dreyer didn't blink. 4 minutes. The burn started low in her chest. Not panic, just biology. Her body wanted air, wanted it badly, but wanting wasn't the same as needing. She'd learned that distinction in 100 dark places where surfacing meant dying. The scar tissue in her lungs pulled tight, a dull ache spreading across her ribs. She didn't fight it, just acknowledged it the way you acknowledge weather. Present, irrelevant. Her heartbeat slowed further. 41, 40. The room above had gone completely still. She could feel their attention like pressure against her skin. 4:30. The edges of her vision started to gray. Not blackness, just a soft fade, like someone turning down a dimmer switch. This was the moment most people broke. The moment the brainstem overrode everything else and forced the body to surface. She'd seen SEALs, good ones, tap out at 4:45. Not from weakness, from survival instinct. She let the gray spread a little further, stayed present inside it. Her instructors at Coronado used to say the difference between 4 minutes and 6 wasn't lung capacity. It was the ability to stay conscious while your body begged you to leave. 5 minutes. Onlookers shifted in their seats. Ryder frowned, jaw tight. 5:30. Medic prepped a dive mask. Dreyer raised a hand. Stand down! 6 minutes. Alarm light blinked amber. Still no movement. 6:15. Tessa's vitals showed slight oxygen dip. Heart rate down to 39 BPM. No signs of distress. 6:32. She moved. Not to surface, to rotate gently in place. Just a quarter turn, eyes open, calm. Then she rose. One clean motion, feet pushing off from the tile. She surfaced with 0 gasp. Just a slow, metered exhale through her nose. The room was dead silent. She pushed her goggles up, stepped onto the ladder, dripped once, then waited. Dreyer glanced at the vitals. Breath hold duration, 6 minutes, 32 seconds. Final O2 saturation, 88%. Heart rate stable. No applause. Just a kind of hush that meant something had tilted. Ryder stood stone still, one hand resting on the edge of the bench. How? He started, but the word caught. Tessa looked over at him. Her voice was even, dry. By not wasting breath on fear, she turned to Dreyer. Request permission to observe the final candidates. He gave a quiet nod. Granted. As she stepped back to her bench, several heads turned to watch. But not one of them made a sound. Because it wasn't a comeback. It was a masterclass. The last candidate surfaced at 0743. The room slowly dissolved from military stillness back into quiet shuffles, towel snaps, and the soft hiss of oxygen tanks being reset. Clipboards passed hands, heart monitors shut down, readings saved to cloud logs. The tension had dispersed, except for the 6 feet between Corporal Brent Ryder and Lieutenant Tessa Ward. She was toweling her face when he approached. You set me up, he said, voice low, barely audible under the echo of wet boots against tile. Tessa didn't turn. I followed protocol. You wanted an audience. No, she said. I wanted oxygen. The rest was yours. He stepped closer. You made me look weak. Now she turned, slowly. You did that the moment you held someone underwater. His jaw flexed. It wasn't personal. It wasn't tactical either. She dropped the towel. But it was recorded. Something cracked across his face, not anger, not shame. Just the realization that the thing he thought was a joke never really belonged to him. You think this changes anything? He asked. She didn't answer. He reached for her arm. An old instinct, unthinking, meant to stop her from walking away. Meant to feel in control for 1 second longer. Her hand moved before his made contact. A clean pivot, one step inside his shoulder line. She seized his wrist, dropped her hips, and turned his momentum against him. The tile under his boots offered no resistance. He landed in the pool. The slap of water echoed down the corridor. He surfaced fast, coughing, sputtering, more out of shock than pain. She stood at the edge, still as steel. Chief Dreyer had seen it all from across the deck. He walked over slowly, didn't raise his voice. Enough! Ryder floated, blinking up. Dreyer cut him off. I said enough! Tessa extended a hand toward the water. Ryder hesitated, then took it. She hauled him out with one motion. No flair, no humiliation, just procedure. You'll need control, she said evenly. When someone's holding your air next time, make sure you remember how it feels. Ryder stood, dripping, staring at her like he'd never actually seen her before. He didn't speak again. Dreyer's voice came from behind them, neutral but firm. Training rotation resumes at 0900, and no one touches anyone without cause from here forward. Is that clear? Murmurs of acknowledgement passed through the candidates. Ryder slunk away toward the showers. Tessa turned back toward the benches. No one blocked her path this time. No one made a sound. Because whatever she'd come to prove, it didn't need a report. It had just made a splash. Command Room 2A was quiet by design. No decorations, no rank flags, just cold matte walls, a central table, and a mounted flat screen paused on a still image from the evaluation feed. 2 divers underwater, one composed, one fidgeting. Chief Mason Dreyer stood beside the screen, arms crossed. Across from him, Lieutenant Tessa Ward sat upright, hands folded, armband tucked inside her sleeve now. No need to wear it anymore. The duty officer, Lieutenant Commander Karen Phelps, reviewed the performance report in silence. Her pen hovered above a checklist, tapping gently against the box labeled Post-Evaluation Clearance Review. No deviation from biometric safety limits, she said aloud. No deviation from protocol. No escalation, Dreyer nodded. Vitals remained steady. She didn't cross anaerobic threshold. No panic symptoms. And the incident with Corporal Ryder? Handled without force, Dreyer said. Contact initiated by him. Redirection only. Witnessed and verified. Phelps looked at Tessa. Did you consider pressing charges? No. Why not? Tessa didn't hesitate. Because the oxygen proved everything. There was a long pause. Not uncomfortable, just waited. Like someone deciding whether a question needed asking. Finally, Phelps clicked her pen once and signed the bottom of the form. Effective immediately. Lieutenant Ward is reinstated with no restriction. Compression protocol cleared. No further observation required. She slid the form across the table. Tessa signed it with a single fluid motion. You understand this makes you eligible for operational re-entry, should you request it. I understand. Dreyer leaned forward, not smug, not smiling, just steady. You proved them wrong. Tessa shook her head. No, I proved breathing's optional when calm isn't. That hung in the air for a second too long. Phelps raised one eyebrow, then closed the folder. Meeting adjourned. As chairs slid back and boots echoed on concrete, Ryder entered through the side door. His wrist was bandaged, his uniform half-zipped, posture stiff. He carried a folded incident acknowledgement form. Corporal Brent Ryder, Phelps said. Do you have something to submit? Yes, ma'am. He placed the form on the table. Then, slowly, with no visible hesitation, he looked at Tessa and saluted. No words, just the gesture. Arm up, elbow locked, eyes forward. She returned it. Sharp, quiet, even. He turned and left without another word. Dreyer waited a moment, then looked at her. You good? Tessa exhaled once through her nose. Breath even, pulse calm. I'm cleared, aren't I? Dreyer almost smiled. That you are. The dive annex hadn't changed. Same stretch of tile, same stainless benches, same mirrored stillness across the surface of Pool 3. Chlorine still clung to the air like a second uniform. But the energy was different now. No one laughed when Lieutenant Tessa Ward entered. No snickers followed the soft, dry wheeze that came and went with colder air. No one shifted their weight to make a point. She walked the deck with the same measured pace she always had. Clipboard in one hand, stopwatch dangling from her other thumb, compression vest beneath her uniform. Vest still necessary, but no longer defining. Across the room, recruits adjusted gear a little faster. Boots landed more evenly. Straps cinched tighter. She didn't call attention to anything. She never had. Chief Dreyer stood beside the wall-mounted timer, arms crossed. He didn't say much either, just nodded once as she passed. Drill set? He asked. Logged and briefed, she replied. She took her post beside the observation deck. The trainees entered the water. No one splashed. Across the bench, a recruit whispered near the neoprene bins. That's her, he muttered, the one who didn't surface. She stayed under 6:30? His partner replied, tone almost reverent. No, that's when she chose to come up. The stopwatch beeped. First set began. From her perch, Tessa watched the first swimmer descend. She made no sound, gave no feedback, just lifted the clipboard, marked time, and exhaled softly through her nose. Her breath was still tight, but stable, deep enough to hold. Dreyer's voice came through the wall intercom at drill midpoint. Calm under pressure, he said, his tone more like a memory than an instruction. That's what keeps you alive. A few candidates glanced her way. No reaction from her, just a slow raise of the stopwatch, thumb steady over the top button. She inhaled. Deeper this time. Not to prove a point. Not to show anyone. Just to remind herself. It was never about holding air. It was about knowing exactly when to let go. Would you have panicked if someone forced you underwater? Or could you stay calm long enough to make them surface first? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story reminded you that control isn't about strength, it's about staying present when the pressure builds, then hit that like button, tap subscribe with the bell icon turned on so you never miss a mission, and share this video with someone who thinks silence means surrender, because there's another story already appearing on your screen. Watch that one next, and I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here on Dignity Defended.